One of the most powerful men in recent American political history, Barney Frank has not slipped quietly into retirement armed with a new book and joining us to deliver a few well-placed shots at the GOP. Robert Kennedy Jr. will also be here to talk about his stance on being an anti-vaxxer, despite evidence that say he is without question completely and undeniably wrong. And the Beltway triple play scores. We talked to Rand Paul about the Patriot Act and those who say he's DQ'd himself from the presidency. I'm Ed Berliner, and this is The Hardline for Monday, June 1st, 2015.
They were driving through one of the camps and a female lion approached the car from the left. And according to the witnesses, it walked quite slowly towards the car and stopped roughly a meter away. The lady was busy taking pictures of it. The lion then sort of lunged at the car and it bit the lady through the window.
The failure of the United States Senate to act to renew the authorities that were included in the Patriot Act has had an impact on the ability or on the authorities that our national security professionals can use to keep us safe.
Every day the headlines attest to the failures of the Obama-Clinton policies. It is sad for me to report to you, but Barack Obama has made us less safe. I'm Lindsey Graham, and I'm running for President of the United States.
Are we going to so blithely give up our freedom? Are we going to so blithely go along and just say, take it? Well, I'm not going to take it anymore. I don't think the American people are going to take it anymore.
A nation that suddenly finds itself able to make all the suspect phone calls they wish, terror on the doorstep allegedly lurking from every corner, and maybe the most entertaining presidential campaign ever on tap. Few people can opine on all this and more. That's where our guest comes in. Former Massachusetts congressman and author of the new book, Frank, A Life in Politics, From the Great Society to Same-Sex Marriage, Barney Frank joins us. Congressman, thanks so much for being here, and I have to start out by asking, how's your retirement going?
Very good. I'd gotten to the point where when the phone rang, I flinched, wondering what problem was going to drop in my lap, and now the phone doesn't bother me at all anymore.
So now when you watch, and we have to start out with the NSA, the Freedom Act versus the Patriot Act, in your opinion, what should Americans be more afraid of? Their government listening to their phone calls, or a government who can't seem to decide what's best in protecting them from terrorism?
Well, more the latter right now. I have to say, I voted against the original Patriot Act. People should not be expected to remember, but we had actually gotten in committee in 2001 originally a pretty good bill that was agreed upon. And then Dick Cheney intervened, and it was bipartisan. The Republicans were in control, voted a good bill together. And Dick Cheney changed all that, and I think it has some excesses in it. On the other, I would say this, I think the fears of the government are somewhat, are substantially overdone. You know, there are two arguments that are legitimate to make. One, many of us have said to the security people, look, show us in private, where have you been able to use these powers to look into every phone call anybody makes at any time to stop something, and they can't. On the other hand, I think it's fair to say to the critics, show me any example where this data has been misused. I think that the security people don't fully value privacy, but they are not a group of people out to snoop on Americans. There is no pattern of the data that's being collected, being used intrusively. When Rand Paul talks about our freedom, frankly, I've been making phone calls for a long time. I have no evidence that any of them have ever been misinformed.
Isn't it better, though, some people would argue, that just in case that one piece of metadata that you find in there, that one phone call, if it stops the killing of one American or one innocent, isn't that worth it?
No. Here's the deal. If our goal was to stop anybody from ever being killed, we would expand law enforcement in complete terms. By the way, we would repeal the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, which requires a search warrant. Look, people have seen this on TV, and to this extent, some of the TV, the cop shows are realistic. They see an inability to get a warrant or evidence excluded because it was seized illegally. Now, in any one case, that's very frustrating because you want to get that no good person and stop him. On the other hand, do we want a situation where in the interest of preventing every possible crime. Nobody has any privacy whatsoever. So no, I do think you'd have to have some balance.
There's the fight going on in the GOP between Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. There is the constant fight going on between the Democrat and the Republican in Congress right now. Isn't it still just amazingly disappointing to you that we still are at a point where the schism's even gotten greater between the two houses? Nobody can agree on anything. There is no middle ground in America right now.
Well,
and if everybody doesn't get what they want, they all just walk away and get angry.
I have to say, I think that's a little too broad, and you know, this will sound partisan, but I was in the Congress in 2008 when George Bush sent his chief economic advisors, the Secretary of the Treasury, the Chairman of the Fed, to a Democratic majority and said, we have terrible trouble and we have to do some extraordinary things that will be unpopular to keep the economy going. And we did it. Senator Dodd and I, with the support from Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Reid, we did that. George Bush got a great degree of cooperation from the Democrats in Congress. Frankly, bipartisanship broke down when Barack Obama took office and Mitch McConnell announced that his #1 goal was to defeat him for re-election. And simultaneously, or pushing that, you had the coming to power of the Tea Party Republicans. I worked very closely with Republicans for a very long time in Congress, including some conservatives. And then came the Tea Party, and yeah, there are these breakdowns, but they are, I think, largely as a result of a rise in control of the Republican Party of a group that does not want government to function. They honestly believe government does more harm than good. In fact, if you look at it on the Democratic side, I don't think you see those divisions, certainly not within the Congress. You're seeing them more on the Republican side between the more traditional conservative Republicans and the Tea Party group.
So the Tea Party comes in and says, we are the ones who truly want America to get better. Yet there are those who say, wait a minute, the Tea Party is the biggest problem right now when it comes to America running smoothly. Would you agree with the latter, that the Tea Party is in many ways, some people would say, the most dangerous facet of our government at the moment?
Dangerous in the sense not that they mean ill, but that their philosophy undervalues our coming together. There was this, oh, government's no good, let's cut back on government. Well, we do need the government for security. Let me cite something now which some of my liberal friends and some of the libertarians who've been so concerned about privacy have to cope with. We would not have caught those murderers who killed people in the Boston Marathon if it weren't for security cameras. You talk about things that make people nervous. Well, we have these cameras out in public, not in your home, but if you're walking on the street, there are the security cameras. It was the security cameras on Boylston Street in Boston that led to the apprehension of Tsarnaev and the death of his brother in the fight with the police. One other thing right now, people say, oh, government's this and government's terrible. In the state of Texas, which has become kind of the bastion of anti-government feeling, what they're mostly doing now is asking the federal government to please send them some money to deal with the floods. And they're not wrong. You know, private enterprise is a great thing. It produces goods and services. But the private sector can't deal with floods. They can't rescue people. They can't build the network of protections that we need. And yeah, I think the Tea Party substantially undervalues what we need to do coming together through government to promote the quality of our lives.
I got about 45 seconds left looking at the race for president. Do you wish that Hillary Clinton would come out and be very honest about everything that's being thrown at her right now? Because there's a lot of allegations that are out there from all sides right now, and people want her to basically give some answers.
I will tell you this. In the 1990s, I was in the Congress, and I listened to all those Republican allegations, and I heard Kenneth Starr in 1998 admit that there was no basis to any of the allegations against Hillary Clinton. Not Whitewater, not the FBI files, not the tribal office, not Vince Foster. And I believe, in fact, what you have are a series of smoke machines that have yet to produce any fire.
Let's put it this way. I have a feeling that your book is going to help probably start a few fires and put out a few as well, because with all the experience that you have and all the things that you're going to put in it and people will learn, I got a feeling we got some more discussions here. The book is called Frank, A Life in Politics, From the Great Society to Same-Sex Marriage, and it is a great ride through what politics is and hopefully maybe what it still one day will become. Congressman Barney Frank, thank you so much. I'll look forward to speaking again, and much luck with the book.
Me too.
All right. We have to continue to look forward and hopefully see at least that everybody starts to get together and maybe move forward just a little bit. Of course, that's what we strive for on a regular basis. Stay with us. This is the fastest 60 minutes of news. The Hard Line continues.